As a wise man once said, the eyes are the leather strap of the anus.
Gosh, I have to go there immediately.
No. Well, so people, we're talking about this. We're talking about the famous saying of Muhammad that the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think I'm just randomly saying creepy things. When the Ali Dawah clips of him saying that the scientific miracles argument had been debunked, lots of people were shocked. And I was thinking, well, Ali Dawah is not going to say something like that without getting it from someone else. He's not the most original fellow in the world. He's a popularizer. But I knew where he was getting it from. He was getting that from Hamza Tzortzis. And I was thinking his essay, but it turns out that Hamza has done videos explaining why the scientific miracles argument has been debunked. And so what I found when I actually went to his videos on the topic is he does a much better job of explaining why the scientific miracles argument has been debunked than Ali Dawah.
Oh, now, hold on. You're saying somebody's doing a better job at explaining something than Ali Dawah? That's ridiculous.
We can still, again, 100% sincerity here, not joking. We can still give him credit where credit is due. He acknowledged that a very popular argument, the go-to argument for people like Zakir Naik, has been debunked, and telling Muslims to stop using that argument. So that's to his credit. But and to Hamza's credit, once he got schooled on the argument, he said, okay, we need to stop using this argument. And it's not just that. Keep in mind, it's not just, oh, I got embarrassed on the argument, therefore it's debunked, because you could always say, okay, I didn't know what I was talking about. I'll go study more. I'll go study the Quran more and learn even better arguments or something like that. He actually learned and figured out what the problems in the argument, why it's been debunked, why the argument is bogus, and he's going to break it down for us. But AP, you know what's interesting?
Yes.
When Ali Dawah posted his, part of the reasons for the follow-up video was Muslims were saying, you need to clarify what you mean, because some people think that you're saying the scientific miracles argument has been debunked.
Are you saying that?
And you can't be saying that, because we know this is the greatest argument in the world. This is Zakir Naik's go-to argument, right? Let's go ahead and look at some clips of whether he says that the scientific miracles argument has been debunked. So what did Ali Dawah actually say? And keep in mind, we did go through the place where he says there are things that you can still be amazed by. Like, oh, isn't that amazing that Allah talks about this? But he's saying, as far as using this as an argument, it doesn't work.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense. Not
what? Absolute nonsense? And he says not total nonsense, because there are things that you can find interesting and stuff, but he says absolute nonsense and debunked.
In total. But guess what? Allah led me to Islam. One of the reasons was because of the scientific miracles. And guess what? Did I leave Islam when this whole scientific miracle thing got debunked? No, I stayed because I...
Wait, did he say debunked? I thought he said debunked there.
It's probably our senses fooling us. I don't think he said that.
So. Maybe Allah's tricking us into thinking that we saw that when we actually didn't.
That's what he did with Jesus. And
yeah.
He tricked Christians into creating the biggest false religion in the world.
All right.
Grew in faith. So in the Andrew Tate video that I did, I mentioned that the scientific miracles in the Quran got debunked.
Okay, so now he's going to correct it. He said, yes, I said debunked. And now all the Muslims said, can you clarify what you mean? This is our favorite argument. How dare you? Please clarify what you actually meant, because we know you can't mean that it was actually debunked. Let's see.
He's going to
apologize. For some odd reason, funnily enough, like as if they thought that it was a slip of the tongue. I'll repeat it again, very carefully. The scientific miracles argument in the Quran got debunked.
Wait, I thought that's what I thought Mike Jones lied about that.
Mike Jones got it wrong. He was also tricked by Allah into believing that he is saying that we are all just being tricked right now. Ali Dawah never said it's been debunked. He's actually trying to apologize right now.
Allah sure does a great job tricking everyone. He didn't just trick us. You're right. He tricked Mike Jones, and he tricked lots of Muslims into thinking that Ali Dawah is saying debunked here when he's actually not. Let's see.
Yeah, I hope my tajweed was on point.
That's funny. I hope my tajweed is debunked. I hope my tajweed is on point. That's like your great pronunciation, your beautiful pronunciation of the Quran. He's saying, let me make sure I pronounce that word debunked properly.
So when I said this, a lot of Islamophobes were celebrating as if I was like, oh my gosh, like this video is going to be me apologizing.
We were celebrating.
No, listen, it got debunked. So that's why I repeat it one more time for my fans, those Islamophobes.
For your fans.
The scientific argument, the scientific miracles in the Quran is debunked.
I don't know how he can make it any clearer.
So me saying the argument of scientific miracles is debunked, it is debunked. And guess what? We don't even need it.
We're proud of that.
This is so dumb. I don't understand the logic here at all. Not that I expect much logic here, but he's saying, and the Islamophobes, they were so happy about this and they were celebrating and they thought I would sit here and apologize. But no, I will confirm once again it has been debunked.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah. Why would we be happy? Why would we be happy if you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong"? We are happy because you confirm once again that it has been debunked. What an idiot!
Yeah, we're sitting there going again. We're sitting there, go Ali, go Ali, go, go Ali, go Ali, go, go Ali, go Ali, go, go. And and he's like, "Oh, now die in your rage, you're all enraged." Like, what planet, you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it amazing though? And I guess it's related because it's like if you spend the past 2 decades finding all these scientific miracles in the Quran, and when the Quran says that the sun sets in a muddy pool, or that stars are missiles that Allah uses to shoot demons when they try to sneak into paradise, or that semen is formed between the backbone and the ribs, you just get used to reinterpreting anything to mean anything you want. And so even when Ali Dawah can sit there and go, it's debunked, 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 debunked. You say, hey, he said debunked. No, liar! Liar, wrong! Mike Jones has been exposed again. He said it. He said that Ali Dawah said it's been debunked. But Ali Dawah never said any such thing. What is this? What is this religion, man?
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Fight Club. Did I say that before? The mindless followers of the character Tyler Durden, where they defend him no matter what he does, and they cheer him on. And then even when the actual guy starts contradicting him, they're like, no, and I don't know. They have to put it straight. They have to fix what he just said, and that's how they treat their God, their scripture, their prophet, their influencers, and their pop YouTubers like Ali Dawah. It's very, very crazy.
So,
can you start the video already?
Hamza Tzortzis is better than Ali Dawah. Let's find out why.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers, sisters, and friends. Welcome to a new episode of the GDM show, the Global Dawah Movement show. On this week's show, we're
more like global Dawah destruction. Gosh, I just said I didn't need a comment, and I couldn't make it 6 seconds without. Okay.
Global demolition show. Go ahead. Yeah.
here with Brother Hamza. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Brother Hamza?
Good to see you, bro.
Same, man. Likewise. So, we've got a very special show planned for you guys this week and next week. It's going to be a 2-part show, and it's to do with the scientific miracles in the Quran.
Yes.
The narrative that we see out there, which is that there are miracles in the Quran, the science proves the Quran, and so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
We're going to be discussing this, and I have some very interesting questions I have lined up for you to really break this down.
Thank you.
And to share the truth, basically, with the people, right?
Yes.
So the first question I'm going to ask you, we'll go straight into this, that is, what are the scientific miracles of the Quran?
Hey, P, when did you leave Islam? How long ago was that?
Long ago, 2014 or something like that.
So you were a Muslim during the heyday.
Yeah.
During the heyday of the scientific miracles argument.
Yeah, so of course. Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever find those interesting when you were a Muslim?
To be honest, not really.
Okay.
No.
That's good. That's good. All right. Because if you had found them powerful and interesting, you would have stayed a Muslim because of those awesome arguments, and now you'd be crying your eyeballs out.
Well, I would say that I think I didn't find them impressive. Anyway, let's
All right.
just move on.
Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The scientific miracles of the Quran claim is usually articulated in the following 3 ways.
and I don't want to keep interrupting, but I pointed out that people should be taking notes on this. This is something you want to, I guess you could. The problems that he points out with are going to be more important, but as far as the articulation, pay attention to the different ways this argument is put.
Have these written down. Number one, the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, did not have access to the scientific knowledge mentioned in the Quran, therefore it must be from God. Number two, another way of putting it is, no one at the time of revelation, which was the 7th century, had access to the necessary equipment to understand or verify the scientific knowledge in the Quran, therefore it must be from God. And number three, the Quranic verses were revealed at a time where science was so primitive, no human could have uttered the truths mentioned in the Quran, therefore it's from God.
Right.
So that's the kind of way many of the Muslims at different levels in society articulate a case for the Quran.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So before.
And so that's
Aren't 2 and 3 basically the same thing? I don't.
yeah, they're all very similar. There's no way for Muhammad to know this stuff during his time. And so it couldn't be verified during his time, or he didn't have access to this kind of knowledge during his time. And whatever it is, it's the only actual source for these amazing scientific insights is if they come from God.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Powerful.
FAS said, is this Hamza guy from Pakistan? No, he is actually of Greek origin.
Yeah. Tzortzis.
That's why he has a Greek last name, Tzortzis. Yeah.
Which according to AP means tortoise, but I don't believe him.
I never said that, but yeah, go ahead.
Going to the whole narrative, the first thing I want to ask you is for you to give us a bit of a background and why we can't claim a miracle, the scientific mentions in the Quran.
Okay, there are 3 major milestones to what I'll call this kind of science in the Quran movement. Yeah.
Right.
This guy, he does
There's
a
always
good
going
job.
to be 3. But...
Yeah. Hey, don't say 3, Hamza. What the heck? Hey, notice Allah says don't say 3, and this guy breaks everything down into 3s. Huh.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
Do
It's a
not say
miracle.
3. Desist. Yeah.
The first one is based on the book that was written by Dr. Maurice Bucaille called The Bible, the Quran and Science. It was written in 1976. And as you can imagine, this book basically said the Quran is in line with modern science, the Bible isn't. Muslims took this, translated it in many languages. I believe some people memorized more of this book than they did of the Quran. Right? It just it was a movement. Even some academics have called this movement Bucaillism.
That's what.
Okay,
That's what
there are
it's called
some
now.
journals that basically talk about this movement and refer to it as Bucaillism.
And it was that book is. I mean, that is massively deceptive. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to read these passages as confirming various scientific theories, and that's why. I mean, again, Maurice Bucaille worked for King Faisal, was not a Muslim, didn't convert, works for King Faisal, and comes out with this book saying that the Quran is filled with these scientific miracles, and Muslims ran with it. They rallied around that, and so that's basically the Andrew Tate of its time.
The second milestone was something called Commission on Scientific Science in the Quran and Sunnah, which was a commission in the 80s that produced a video called This is the Truth, and this was run by Sheikh Abdul Majid Az-Zindani. Now what they did in the 80s, I believe it was 1981 or 1982, is that they invited scholars, scientists from the West to Arabia and basically somehow got them to say some special things about the Quran.
Yep.
But we now know this is not true. The majority of those scientists have retracted those statements or have said that we were quote mined or whatever the case may be.
And by the way, that was Zindani. That guy was buddies with Osama bin Laden. And if you look at the textbook that they put out about these scientific about some of the scientific miracles in embryology and so on, the list of people you're acknowledging at the beginning. So the acknowledgements, Osama bin Laden's on the list as one of the guys who is funding this back in the early 80s. But you recall this because there was an awesome article. If you look up Wall Street Journal scientific miracles or something like that, it pops up. But in 2002, someone went and investigated this, went to the scientist. The actual method was, and these guys, they had it all planned out. They know what they're doing. And guess what? You could use this if you really wanted to be deceptive. You could use this method to defend anything. You could use it to defend anything. So if you wanted to defend the scientific accuracy of some Hindu book, let's say. Just go in there, find some Homer, it doesn't matter. Find some things that are, sound like they could be correct scientifically. Then invite, let's say, 100 scientists to come and analyze various quote mined quotes and ignore the context and so on. Give these guys a free vacation, have them bring their spouses and so on, bring them over, shower them with gifts, shower them with free vacations, money, all this stuff. Then put them on stage in front of a bunch of Muslims who are looking enthralled by these scientists and so on. Put them on stage, give them a quote and say, is this impressive? Could Muhammad have known this? If you have 100 scientists, like 96 of them are going to say, no, I'm not impressed by that. Some of them, you can prod them and they'll go, oh yeah, that's really amazing. I'm just shocked by how amazing that is. And then, of course, for your dawah, you only quote the ones who actually confirmed it. And then later on, when these guys come back and are interviewed and they say, I was just trying to be nice. It was, they're paying for all this stuff. I wanted to say something nice. That's what the guys actually said later on when they're asked. Mm-hmm. They're saying they're basically trying to be nice. So he went through two. So Bukai's book on the amazing scientific accuracy of the Quran. Then this big stunt they all pulled when that took off. And now we're going to have the third
milestone for this movement is the popularizers. You had the likes of Dr. Zakir Naik and Sheikh Yusuf Estes and many other callers to Islam.
Sheikh Yusuf Estes, the guy who says that the Roman Catholic Church was founded by Alexander the Great in Rome 3 centuries before Christ.
That's the only thing I think of whenever I hear that guy's name.
Wait, so he's one of the popularizers of this, eh? Yeah. Super powerful intellect he's got. All right.
Surprise.
Who basically have articulated this case. Even myself, I think about 3, 4, 5 years ago, I articulated something very similar, not as strong as this. Yep. But we have found out now that it's actually an incoherent and not very robust way of showing that the Quran is true. And the reason for that, just to end on this point, to answer this question, the main reason we can't claim miracles, and we're going to discuss many other reasons, is because of the knowledge of what science is as a method, and science is as a philosophy, meaning the philosophy of science.
So, philosophy of science. So he's going to get, I think he lists 2 reasons, but if you look more closely, it's actually 3 reasons, 3 problems with the argument. And so his main one here is going to be what science is and how it changes. So let's see.
So if you go to the works of Goethe and Sober, Rosenberg, Stathis Psilos, another.
So he's actually citing philosophers of science, so Elliot Sober and Alexander Rosenberg and so on. So these are philosophers of science. I'm not sure he really understands philosophy of science really well, but let's go ahead and check.
Philosophy of science and others, you see that science is limited. Yeah. For example, it's based on induction. Not only on induction, but let's take induction as an example. Induction is a limited thinking process where you have a limited set of observations where you conclude for an unseen next observation or an entire set of observations, known as weak and strong induction. As you can see, that's probabilistic reasoning. It's not going to be 100% certain. It's always going to range from 0% to 99% because there's always a possibility of a future observation going against your previous conclusions, which were based on previous observations. An easy way of looking at it is using a crude example using sheep. Say I go to Wales and I want to find out what the color of sheep are. I count 1,000 sheep. They all happen to be white. So using induction, the next instance of sheep is going to be what color? White. Exactly. But that doesn't mean that's true because it might be black.
Right.
Where have I heard that analogy before? Isn't that a popular thing or?
The most common, as far as when I was in school and induction was being broken down, is with birds, like ravens. So you say you examine. So suppose you didn't know anything about ravens and you're just examining scientifically what color ravens are, and you see 100 ravens and they're all black. So you draw an inference based on that, and you conclude all ravens are black. And so the point of this being probabilistic is, well, you could, in theory, you could find a white raven, at some point in the future, and therefore, your conclusion would be false.
Yeah.
So that's the idea that, and science in general is considered probabilistic in the sense that you're supposed to be open for future disconfirmations of whatever hypothesis or theory you're putting forward.
The thing is, he knows this, but that's the whole point of science, right? I mean, science is supposed to take that into consideration whenever science makes a conclusion about something. So that is actually a strong point of science. He's now going to, I guess, go with this idea and comment on certain things that are very, very much verifiable. But I'm really wondering where he's going to go with this.
He actually, he's making important points, because he's going to go on to say, imagine that Muslims in the 19th century, so the 1800s, looked for scientific confirmation of the Quran. Well, the scientific theories they would have pointed to, oh my goodness, look at this, it would have been disconfirmed later. It would be, you would say the Quran is affirming.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. His problem is he makes it sound like science isn't really getting you to the truth. It's always open and everything might be disconfirmed tomorrow. So notice, as far as things that the Quran is claiming, like when they're talking about embryonic development and so on, the Quran gets things wrong. But let's pretend it got things right with these basic steps and so on, like, semen has something to do with reproduction and so on. Seriously, it's not like 5 years from now they're going to find out that semen doesn't have anything to do with human reproduction, right? You're not realistically going to find out, oh, it's actually a stork brings it. Right? Like some things we like, in theory, you have to be open to the idea that something is going to be, come along later in the future. But in reality, we understand a lot about, how babies are made. We have a pretty good understanding of that. And a lot of it's not going to change. Some of the very minor details might change in the future, but the big picture, the stuff that Muhammad could have gotten right, the big picture, those things aren't actually going to change much. So to act like, we can't appeal to science because it's just, it's changing all the time. And I'm not sure he's totally on the right page, but his point is well received here.
No, I definitely think that the point is fair when he says that Muslims should not rely on science this much or that much when they try to confirm the Quran, because of that very specific point. I guess I'm just so used to hearing from these Muslim apologists this whole idea, science changes all the time. The yardstick that you're using right now, it will be different tomorrow. Therefore, this is something that Ali Dawah and others have said. So I hope he just doesn't go there too much, and we'll see.
Again, my issue with what he's saying is just like, okay, I think you're a little overstating how much science is going to might change in the future. To be sure, lots of theories are going to change at points in the future and so on. That doesn't mean we don't really know a lot of stuff. Like the probability of a future disconfirming claim is pretty minute in some cases. So
we have plenty of knowledge.
But apart from that, he does an awesome job just absolutely steamrolling the scientific miracles argument.
Because there are black sheep, right? Exactly. We used to sing in nursery rhymes, black sheep. Yeah. So the point is, it just shows that
singing is rum.
Concluding from limited observations doesn't give you certainty.
Right, okay.
And that's the beauty of science. Yeah. It's supposed to change based on new observations, new understanding, new discoveries, and that's the beauty.
Yes.
Now, understanding this about science, and we've mentioned this in previous GDM shows, we would see that you can't now apply this to the Quran and claim miracle, because you have to prove, or you have to show, that the science that you think is factual is never going to change. That's
this comment is joking here, but it's making an important point. Like, if science is always changing, like, is it the case that 5 years from now, scientists might actually discover that the sun sets in a muddy pool
very likely
way out west? Like, is that something that scientists might seriously find out? So that's my point as far as, come on, we know quite a bit about science.
Very likely, yes.
Right.
So the next thing I want to ask you or touch upon is previous civilizations. Now, there's this idea that we have as Muslims, is that, you know, the Prophet ﷺ, you know, he was the first one who mentioned some of these things. This knowledge wasn't present on the face of this earth before the Prophet ﷺ.
That's not true.
So yeah.
Did you catch that? So this is why I said he mentioned two reasons. He said, one, science changes, so you don't appeal to a scientific theory that might change at some point in the future. And two, that, hey, you have to know what Allah's actually saying. Don't just say, oh, what Allah means here is this scientific theory, when you don't know that's what Allah means. If you don't have Muhammad or someone of authority telling you that that's what it means, then you run the risk of putting your own interpretation of these verses. But now is the third issue very important. Suppose Muhammad says something, and suppose he's correct. How do you know he couldn't have known this ahead of time because other people have said it? And there is quite a bit of ignorance on what people knew before Muhammad, or what theories were circulating during the time of Muhammad. Almost everything Muhammad says, you can find examples of it beforehand. But and it's good that Hamza's pointing this out, because this is a pretty significant problem here. So
he was the first one who mentioned some of these things. This knowledge wasn't present on the face of this earth before the Prophet ﷺ.
That's not true.
it's not true.
So yeah, exactly. That's the question.
Yeah. So the question is what you're saying. So I don't want to.
Well, I'll say the question being that
That's it, bro.
Was this
Be
knowledge,
assertive.
was this knowledge there before the Prophet ﷺ?
Well, that's the point. No, it was, and
It was. He's saying, hey, any of these scientific issues where you say Muhammad got something right here, it's because other people were saying it ahead of time. I mean, not because he would say, you know, that he's getting inspiration and so on. But what is there that you can point to that Muhammad actually got right, that you can't find by some group before Muhammad, that was actually widely known when Muslims were traveling and so on? Like, what is there?
How old is this video?
It's several years old. Why?
You have Muslims all around the internet still going around and saying, Muhammad, you know, the Quran tells us things that nobody knew at that time. They should just go back and watch this video from this guy who tells them that's nonsense, right?
That's what, see, Hamza is not nearly as good a popularizer as someone like Ali Dawah. And that's why it's good. That's why lots of people are hearing that this argument has been debunked from Ali Dawah and didn't hear it from Hamza. Hamza is obviously significantly more intelligent, a better speaker than Ali Dawah, pretty much better in every possible way, except Ali Dawah is just way more popular. And so we're going to help Hamza. Ali Dawah is going to help Hamza. Everyone's going to help Hamza expose this ridiculous, stupid argument.
And that's why we need to learn our history. And I'm quite saddened that we even wrote an essay about this a few years ago, did webinars and try to create a narrative. People still are not adopting this because they're still adopting a false historical narrative. Because people are saying, no one knew this information at the time in the 7th century. That's not true.
I love how it's not true. Stop saying it. It's false.
Thank you.
I like this. I'm liking this guy, man. And you know what's amazing? There are Muslims who will be mad at him for destroying a completely deceptive, bogus argument. Whereas we're the reverse. It's like, I will take this guy more seriously than I will take someone who's still clinging to this argument, even though it's been debunked. So guys, you're actually better off in the long run if we think you're at least trying to be honest. When I see Zakir Naik, all I think is, this is the biggest liar I've ever seen in my life. He has to know. He has to know that he's lying right now. There's no way he doesn't. It makes me think, even though I'm not going to agree with other arguments he may have for Islam, at least it appears that he's trying to be honest.
Give you some examples. Consider the setting down of iron. In the Quran, in chapter 57, verse 25, the Quran says, and we sent down iron. Yes, this is relatively true, that in some meteorites you have iron ore, right? So iron was sent down from that perspective. Does that mean it's a scientific miracle? No, because you had the ancient Egyptians, 1400 years before the prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, they described iron as Ba-en-pet, which means iron from heaven.
Right.
This was like over 1,000 years before the Prophet ﷺ. So you.
This is an example of an argument where there are actually multiple problems with it, and multiple problems that he has already mentioned. So he mentions a problem of if you interpret the Quran as saying that iron is sent down from heaven, and iron did come down in the form of meteorites and so on, how could Muhammad have known this? Well, a bunch of people already knew that. They knew that meteorites have some sort of awesome metal that you could use to make really good weapons. And it's because before people knew how to get iron out of the ground, they would get it from meteorites. So you see a meteorite fall and you go check it out, and it's made of this awesome metal. That was known, that was understood long before Muhammad. So even if the Quran, when it says sent down, is referring to, keep in mind, all it says is it was sent down. Iron was sent down. What does sent down mean? Suppose you interpret it as sent down from outer space. Then, okay, other people knew that. That's what he's saying. If you're saying it's a miracle that Muhammad knew this, great. A bunch of the Egyptians, the Babylonians, they knew this, right? So that's one problem. The other problem is, going back to what he was saying earlier, that one, you have to have an accurate understanding of what the Quran is saying, because sometimes it sounds like literally sent down from the sky, and other times it sounds like he's using it as a synonym for saying like Allah provided this for you. So here are examples. Here are things, I made a list of things the Quran says Allah sent down. Allah sent down cattle. Where'd my list go? Allah sent down, according to the Quran, there are Quran verses on all of these things that Allah sent down. Allah sent down the balance. Allah sent down rain. Allah sent down manna. Allah sent down quails. Allah sent down cattle. Allah sent down clothing. Allah sent down the Torah. Allah sent down a surah. Allah sent down tranquility. Allah sent down angels. Allah sent down light. Allah sent down food. Allah sent down punishment. And of course, Allah sent down iron. So when it says Allah sent down iron, and you say, that means he sent it down from outer space. Okay, it also says Allah sent down cattle. Does that mean he sent them down from outer space? How are you distinguishing? You're saying...
I actually made a video about this where I listed those things as well and addressed the same point. Where I also took your advice and I depicted a cow falling from the sky.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Cow coming from outer space, yeah.
Yeah.